Hey everyone, meet our 55-year-old Burn the Fat, Feed the Muscle and Physique champion from the 2025 Spring Challenge. Here he is, Scott DeBoer. We're going to tell you how he did it. This is Burn the Fat, Feed the Muscle, Inner Circle Podcast. Hello, Scott DeBoer. Thank you for joining us on the podcast today. We are so excited to have you.
It's great to be here.
Well, all right. We've got to get down to the nitty gritty here because you're 55 years old. You're not some 25-year-old who just said, hey, I want to get in shape. And you went to the gym twice and you came out looking like you're on steroids. You did none of that, the steroids, I mean, but you worked really hard, basically. You have been in Burn the Fat for about 15 years, correct? Since 2010?
Correct, 2010.
Okay. But previously you've entered the weight loss challenge division. But this year you did something different and entered the Muscle and Physique division and you won. That is so amazing. That's incredible. So tell me about your journey. Tell me about what motivated you and tell me about going from the fat loss division to the Muscle and Physique division.
Yeah, it was kind of surreal. I've always, so I joined Burn the Fat Inner Circle back in 2010. I've done several challenges over the years, had some good success. I mean, it's a proven program, right? So you don't stray away from something that works. So, but what I found is I would relapse or have a setback, right? When the challenge isn't on. I do really well with competition and something to focus on. And, but I also read recently where actually yo-yoing in the weight is actually more unhealthy than if you just kind of stayed heavy, and that kind of hit me. And so I was determined kind of from here on out, I was like, no. So when I entered the fat loss in January, the New Year's challenge, I vowed, made kind of a public declaration, right? That's the nice thing about the inner circle, right? Is it's like you put something out there, it's out there.
Accountability.
And I vowed this is the last time I'm ever going to enter the fat loss division. And then also set a goal that come the summer challenge, I'm going to enter the Muscle and Physique. I may not be quite where I want to be and ready for it yet, but I'm going to give it a shot. And so I did that. I did well in the New Year challenge. I placed second in the fat loss during then, and then came back and focused on the Muscle and Physique division, and did well in that. So
that's so incredible. I love that. So what was your ending weight from the New Year's challenge, your last time in the fat loss division?
My ending weight, so I started at the beginning of the year at 240. I think I ended the New Year's challenge at about 206. I think I lost 34 pounds in the New Year's challenge. And then I did my own personal mini challenge in between. That was one of the things that kept me from kind of relapsing. The inner circle is great in that outside of the competitions, right? There's a whole community of people and supporters. And so one of the longtime people it's called the Afterburners, I think, thread of people just wanting to kind of keep going or looking for support in between challenges. And so I joined that and did my own kind of mini challenge and lost, I think, another 5 pounds in preparation for the Muscle and Physique. So.
Okay, that's incredible. I love hearing that because you're right. It's really easy to slip back, and most people do. Most people say, "Oh, I did it. I don't have to do that anymore." And then
yes.
Then you do have to do it
celebrate,
again.
Which I used to do, right? It's like, oh, great, let's go. Yeah, it's kind of an oxymoron there, but unfortunately, it happens all too often.
Right. Rewarding yourself with a gallon of ice cream is probably not really a reward. Reward yourself with new clothes. That's a better reward. Okay, so then it sounds like you were about 200 pounds when you started the Muscle and Physique division, correct? Or what was your starting weight for that?
Yes, it was. Well, actually, it was. So I went from 240 to 210, got
Okay.
down to 206. So I started the Muscle and Physique at 206, and then lost 10 pounds of body weight,
Okay.
um, to end at about 195, 196. And that's something. It's a little bit of a mindset shift when you go from the fat loss to the Muscle and Physique, because it's in the fat loss division, you can really focus on kind of true weight loss. And there's that, the more weight you have to lose, it's more forgiving if you lose some of that as lean muscle, right? That you want to stop as much of that in the Muscle and Physique, and even hopefully gain a little, muscle as possible. So, I had to do a little mind shift on number setting and expectations. And one of the things I think I wrote in my essay was I had set goals. Every challenge I set goals. That's one of the, those 5 elements. Um, and it was too aggressive in goal setting for the Muscle and Physique, just because, again, you can kind of make more progress, get bigger numbers, during the fat loss. That wasn't the case. And so it was about halfway through, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to kind of get to where I want to get, both in weight and body fat. So I kind of did a reset, midway through the challenge. So,
Okay, so what was your starting goal, and then what did you redefine it as halfway through?
um, I think my starting goal was I wanted to lose 1.5 pounds a week, so 18 pounds, um, and ended up losing 10, which was my reset goal. So,
Okay. But that's still significant, especially when you've only got 10 pounds to lose. You know?
I still have more. I still have more to lose. So yeah, but it's again, it's just kind of that, and then focusing less on the scale weight now, and trying to focus more on body fat is that other kind of shift I'm trying to wrap my arms around making as well. So,
Did you weigh yourself every day, every week? How often were you checking in?
so interesting you mentioned that. So starting in the New Year's challenge, I ended up weighing myself twice a day. And so I used to weigh weekly. Um, but one of the things I was getting frustrated at is scale weight. You jump on the scale, it's a point in time. And there's so many things that can affect, weight at a particular, how much water you're retaining, what you ate that day. And so I started keeping a spreadsheet. I'm a numbers guy, a spreadsheet geek. So I've got tons of spreadsheet. I love data. And so I started keeping track of a food journal, also in comparison to how I was weighing first thing in the morning when you're at the lightest, and then I'd usually weigh in the evening time when I'm the heaviest. And it was interesting to see fluctuations. Just, I could fluctuate between 1 and 5 pounds on just morning to night any given day. And it was kind of it helped me mentally, because it's like, okay, don't weigh so much into, no pun intended, how much, I'm at in a particular time. And so I charted my average daily weight, is what I started doing. So I could see, oh, even though I'm up 3 pounds this day and down 2 pounds that day, over time, is that line going down? And that's really, I wanted this to be, especially at 55, I want something sustainable. Um, when I was younger, I could lose, big chunks of weight, but I wanted it to be in that, that 1 to 2 pounds a week, that they say is both the healthy kind of weight loss that you can then sustain it and keep it off. So I was really, working towards that. And so I would just chart. So I ended up, I've been doing basically twice a day weigh-ins.
Did you notice if there were foods that made you weigh more in the evenings? Like if you had potatoes for dinner or certain things that made a difference?
Yes. Yeah, carbs is a big one. And Also, I had played around. I was trying to cut sugar, a lot of sugar other than natural sugar, like fruits and stuff, in the New Year's challenge. And I went almost, sugar free there. I was kind of the pendulum swing, right? I was a little too far. So I was also taking these last 7, 8 months to get an idea of how the different foods, how I react, because everybody reacts, differently. Some people can tolerate some foods better. And so I was really using my food journal less about calories because I didn't track actual calories these last 7 months. Um,
Really?
right. But I would do it more just on feedback of how I'm feeling, what the scale was saying, and adjust that way because I didn't want to have this be the rest of my life of having to kind of count calories. Now, as
Yes.
I probably get closer to that true goal, I'll probably end up, doing that a little bit, I'm sure. But I was more keeping the food log to get a better feel of what things made me tired, what gave me energy, how were workouts in relation to what I ate, to really just try to get more in tune with how the different foods affect me.
Well, and I think that is the definition of intuitive eating. And that's why most people don't do it very well because because we want to say, oh, eat well you feel, but that's really dangerous for most of us. So the fact that
Mm-hmm.
you really paid attention to those signals and changed accordingly. Because I mean, for me, if I'm eating cookies and I start to feel sick, the problem is I keep eating the cookies and I should
Mm-hmm.
stop. And I think I'm not alone in
Mm-hmm.
that. There are people who want to do that. And then I say, oh, why did I eat those? I feel awful. And instead of
Exactly.
not eating those anymore, I should, you know, actually
Yes.
listen. And I think
I,
that's really incredible that you're paying attention to that, you're listening to those signs and obeying. I mean, you can listen and ignore, but to listen and obey, that's the real success, I think. You know,
yes.
how do you have success if you don't actually do the thing that your body is telling you it needs? So
Yes.
that's really incredible.
I joke with my
I like
wife. I
that.
call it food amnesia. Right?
Uh-huh.
We know what that thing's gonna do, and yet it's like whether it's the addiction, the craving,
Yes.
and I still have those things. It's one of the things that Tom has brought up here in the last several years is that you know nothing has to be off the table, right? Everything in moderation, or you don't have to do this the old, broccoli and chicken like the bodybuilders did day in and day out. You can have that balance. And so I still enjoy certain things, but I've also noticed now my palate is slowly changing, gravitating towards some things, and now something really sugary, I just can't do anyway. So I think my body's finally reached that point.
It's realized what's good for it, huh? So, what kinds of foods do you eat now? I noticed on your food journal that you posted, the spreadsheet. I thought that was fascinating, by the way, like how you tracked it and your point system. I'm going to have you tell about that, but I want to know what kinds of foods you said your goal was a calorie deficit and clean eating. So, what did that look like for you? What did that require?
So yes, those two things. So in the nutrition bucket, it's 2 points, which we'll talk that spreadsheet. But one is the deficit. So if I stayed in that deficit, and that was again ever since I didn't track calories per se, it was evidence of am I losing weight.
Mm.
And then the other component was the what I called the clean eating. And so that was do I get my protein in? Do I keep the sugars down, especially the added sugars? That's really what I did a lot of label looking now for added sugars, and it's got to be nothing or low. Um, but my diet consisted a lot of um, like chicken, shrimp, eggs, egg whites for the proteins. Um, I ate a lot of salads. Um, the lots of fruit. That would be my go-to dessert is fruit or maybe a little piece of dark chocolate. When of course, it's not dark chocolate. You get the real dark, and it's not too sweet. Uh,
Right. I noticed
but
that
that
was on
was,
your list, chocolate
uh,
squares every day.
I
I'm
know.
like, good for you. That's good to have something in there, but it's within a responsible and reasonable limit. So that's great.
Exactly. And I think I put in there salsa. I get the big jugs of salsa from Costco, and that's my salad dressing because so many salad dressings just aren't good for you, or the ones that are, I don't really like. And salsa's pretty low cal, pretty healthy, and it just lets me make a good salad. And so,
That's great. I love that. Okay, now tell me more about your point system. The other thing. So the nutrition point system, but it looked like you had a possible points every day and then you graded yourself every day.
exactly. So this had evolved over time. I had over different challenges, I'd pick up things where I'd want to focus on or work on. Um, in addition to kind of the 5 key elements of burn the fat. Um, and so it was always in the back of my mind, but it was never. It was always after the fact, which doesn't really do me any good real time. And so I was like, starting in the New Year challenge, I was like, I'm literally going to have a checklist each day. And at that point, I was posting the weekly, the minimum weekly post of what's your weigh in, but I would find that if I didn't hit my goals that week, it'd be like, well, there's a week gone, first of all, and it's like it's not real time feedback, right? It's like, okay, I was off, but I didn't course correct, lots of people do that, and then they say, oh, well, I'm going to try harder next week. Well, what's that mean, right? So um, I'm a retired project manager, and one of the key tenets we live off is you plan the work, then you work the plan. And I took that same approach here. Is you plan out what food, what exercise, what each thing you're going to do each day, and then you go do it. And so my spreadsheet was a way to capture that. I had the 5 elements from Burn the Fat: the nutrition, the resistance training, the cardio, the goal setting or visualization, and then the support. And I weighted those double because I think they're the most important. So that was 10 points. And then the other 4 came from the 4 things that I found I need. I think most everybody needs, but is there's a stress component to it because stress raises cortisol levels, which impacts sleeping and weight retention and the whole bit. So there's a stress component, a stretching component, especially as some of us get older, we get a little stiffer, we're not as flexible. There's a sleep component because sleep is so important for recovery, and then a hydration component because I was never getting enough water. And until I started tracking, I didn't realize just how little hydration I was getting. So that was actually one of the toughest to hit every day because I get closer to bedtime and it's like, I need to start chugging.
What was your water goal?
The for this last challenge was 108 ounces. It was 120 ounces for the New Year's challenge. 128 ounces is a gallon, so it's almost a gallon a day. Um, so, but I came up with 108 based on again feeling where I was with the 120, and I kind of went the lower in between challenge. Like, no, that's not quite enough. So, kind of found my sweet spot, I think.
Did you have a gallon jug that you carried around, or did you have a water bottle that showed you how much you were drinking that you
Yeah,
refilled?
yeah. Between my coffee cups, my coffee cups are 12 ounces, my water bottles are 24, and I literally just when I'd finish one, tally it up. So
I love that. And how did you access your spreadsheet? Is it just on your computer? Did you have it on your phone or okay.
yeah, no, just on the computer. And so each day there are 14 points possible, and then a challenge is 84 days, and so there's 1,100 and some odd points for a challenge. And I keep a running total because I also had a goal of 90% compliance to over the challenges. So for the New Year's challenge, I was at 93%. This last challenge, I was at 90%. So
That's really amazing. And I love how you were able to quantify it and just say, look, if I give everything a point system, this is how it works. And I think Clearly, for someone like you who thinks that way, and there's a lot of people who probably think that way, it makes it really easy. Not easy. It's not easy,
Yeah,
but
simple.
but simple. Yes, thank you. Very cut and dry. Very, you either did it or you didn't, and you can see if you did or you didn't. But I like that you also accounted for those other factors like sleep and stress, because we forget, we do focus on the five elements: the nutrition, mental, cardio, weights, and social support. But sometimes we forget that there are other factors that affect those factors. So I really like how you thought about those and made them part of the equation. I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference.
Yes.
So tell me about, we've got to talk about your weight training, because you achieved your results not the same way that most people do. You didn't
Yes.
go lift heavy weights, you lifted body weight.
Yes.
So tell me what that looked like. What were your workouts like, and how it's really amazing to me to win the muscle and physique division on body weight alone, and not, to not be squatting 500 pounds like you see some people do. That's not me. But
Yeah.
I did
Yes.
115 last week. So I feel good about that. On Tuesday, I did. So, and that's still hard for me. So, so how did you do it? How did you get great results without lifting heavy weights?
Yeah. It was an intentional choice. The last time I lift weights, I was getting injuries, whether it was from trying to lift too much or just certain muscles not being used to it. Um, and I'm also big on, as I age, what they call the functional fitness, just to be able to do everything, everyday things. Well, my wife and I just flew recently, right? And taking your bags and putting it up an overhead bin. Things, I didn't think about when I was younger, but it's like, oh, my back, or oh, my shoulder. So I really wanted to focus on being able to do something without a lot of equipment. And in the New Year's challenge, I did the body weights plus I had a set of resistance bands that I used. But for this challenge, I said, you know what? I just want to do. I had um, myself and a pull-up bar, and so my routine consisted of things like there's all sorts of different kinds of push-ups you can do, different angled push-ups. There's dips. I literally use just a windowsill ledge for the dips, for the triceps, just body weight air squats. And I
How
just
many squats did you have to do to get enough in?
At my last workout for this last challenge, I think it was 80 squats in a row. And I that was starting to push it, because then you got other so I think I'd probably start using, we've got a weighted weight vest I've never used, but I think I'll probably graduate to that. Um, but and then the pull-up bar lets you do the three different types. And when I started in January, I could do one pull-up. So that was it. A lot of it involved just kind of hanging, and the negative pull-ups where you just kind of let yourself down,
Oh,
until I could get to the point of doing both chin-ups, pull-ups, and then the neutral grip.
yeah. Okay. So how many
So
pull-ups were you able to do by the end?
10.
10. That's impressive. I can do a pull-up to save my life.
Um, and on the Burn the Fat, Tom has got the body weight 2.0. So I leveraged a lot of that for ideas on different body weight exercises, and how to get creative with them. And just a lot of, I would do some ladder workouts with them where I would just do a circuit of, do pull-ups, dips, push-ups, squats, and abs, and then just add a set each time, and ladder up and ladder down, because then you get a component of cardio in doing that as well. So yeah, literally it was just body weight exercises for this challenge.
That's so cool. So by the end of your, I guess to add the progressive overload, you said you were adding a set each time. That also must have added a lot of time to your workouts. Were your workouts pretty lengthy then? Were you pushing over an hour, 2 hours? What did it look like?
For the resistance training, it would be, depending on what I was doing each day, anywhere from 20 minutes up to 45 minutes. So
That's not bad.
not no, not a lot of time. That's the other thing I want to be able to continue doing this, right? To sustain and make additional progress, and didn't, want to spend, because there's the cardio in too, right? Which like
Mm-hmm.
can be an hour a day. So, and I started out doing 6 days a week of strength training, where I would do 3 days of lower body, 3 days of upper body. About midway through the challenge, it's like, I'm not going to be able to keep this up. My body's not going to be able to keep this up. So I dialed it back into 3 days a week of total body each of those 3 days. So when I
Okay.
did that, those were, 45, 50 minutes.
Okay. That's such a great strategy. And I like, again, you're monitoring the way you feel and responding and obeying. Listen and obey. It's amazing. But so were you just doing your cardio on the opposite days then, you said? Or were you
Yes.
doing body weight and then cardio at the end of the day or something at first?
Um, Both. Most of the cardio was, my wife and I would get out for an hour walk a day. We do 3.5 miles, and we did that 6 days a week. So we would do that even on the days. But then on the off days that I wasn't doing resistance training, I would usually add something else in. Jump on the rowing machine, go for a jog. I don't run anymore. Go for a slog is what we called it.
It's
On
movement. It all
those,
counts.
exactly. And that, I guess that's a good point, right? Just getting out and moving. When we started walking, at the beginning of the year, it's amazing just how, like, people don't think walking burn fat, but yet, we try to stay in a certain zone, for the heart rate, and just, again, 45 minutes, 60 minutes. It's amazing, what you can do just with that. So,
Well, and even just walking around your house in the day, if you're cleaning or doing house projects and things, just being more active, increasing that neat number is really effective. You don't think it is until you get on the scale and you see a downward trend.
exactly.
You also mentioned a stress relief component. And I just want to point this out because several of our winners have also mentioned this. With your stress reduction, you took time to pray in the mornings.
Yes.
Is that it? I have noticed that with several of our winners, that those who take that spiritual time to regroup and talk to God and have that time in there, they seem to do really well. Is there anything you'd like to share about that and how it affected your training or your perspective or success?
Yeah, I think, and it can look different for every, I mean, for some people who aren't spiritual, it can be meditation, it can be, gratitude journaling, kind of whatever that looks like. But first of all, taking that time and just, for me, it's realizing I can only control certain things and the rest I can't. So why am I worrying about all those things I can't? I'm a worrier by nature. I always have been, but the older I get, I realize most of that worrying doesn't do anything. I'm really not in control, and so just focusing on that to help bring that stress down. And then anything I happen to be worrying about, if everybody has challenges. I pointed out a few I had during a challenge of some difficult moments, right? Um, the old me would have either quit, would have turned to food, would have, stopped working out, um, and just having that time to center yourself, and um, for me, again, praying is just helped me through that, and it's just so important. So
I agree. I think that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Um, and I think prayer is part of your support group, is it not?
It is.
So we have our, also you mentioned that you went to the inner circle every day. Or was it every day or every week? But you had one of your items on your spreadsheet that you had to go check in, do your posts, and encourage other people. Tell me about that process and how that affected you.
Yeah, that was again starting. This was something new. Starting in the New Year's challenge, I went from weekly to daily. So I would do two things. I would post the previous day's points because again, I'm holding myself accountable via public public shaming, public appreciation, right, whatever it happened to be. And so I wanted that aspect, but then also making a conscious effort to try to support others, help others out where I could. I know a lot of people ask me about my point system. Hey, can I get a copy of that spreadsheet? Sure, and tweak it for, make it your own for however it works for you. And then also the team component. So a few challenges ago, I started joining a team because, again, being a data person and analytical, I noticed most of the people who were on teams stayed to the end of the challenge, whereas others who didn't, and this was very first challenge in 2010 I joined, I never finished. So it was, I know it's true, right? It's one thing to let yourself down. Most people don't want to let other people down more than themselves. So, and this last challenge, I was actually captain for the first time of a team. So,
How did that change your perspective being captain?
um, it. I'm not by nature a rah rah go type person, and it forced me in a good way to be able to check in on people, just check in on the team, post, hey, haven't heard from people in a while. How's everybody doing? Can we do anything? So that was good personally for my own growth of just, not just about me. It's about this community, right? Which is that's what's so nice. That's why people are still around and why they do so much stuff outside the challenges on the inner circle. It's a community. It's another home. It's another support group.
Yes, having that accountability definitely makes you stick with it, doesn't it?
It does.
Did you have anybody in your personal, or I should say physical life, in like at home, who was also with you? You said you went walking with your wife. Was she also on board with the eating and things like that? As far, did you guys kind of do it together?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I do fine if I don't have things in the house, but as soon as things are in the house, that willpower just is so hard. So it really helped that both of us have been kind of making a change, and even though we like different things, it's still more of the clean eating type, and fortunately we don't like the same thing. So if we're at the store, it's like ooh, and they're like no. Check each other in that regard. So.
I love that. That's great. Well, it does make a difference. So I really admire your willpower. And, I love how you've really got support in three places. You've got God, you've got the inner circle, and you've got your wife. So I think, it's not just one area you're drawing strength from. You've got three. And I think that's really neat. That makes it that much more anchored. Okay. Scott, you're a winner. You've lost an incredible amount of weight and gained a significant amount of muscle. Your progress is incredible, enough to win you title of champion. Is there anything you would like to share by way of inspiration to our listeners or other people who might be thinking about entering the challenge and are maybe worried that they won't be successful?
In my opinion, the only ones that aren't successful who don't try. So it's you're never going to get change if you don't make that first step. So, and for anyone, I know some people don't like posting, especially before pictures, kind of putting themselves out there, being vulnerable. This community is nothing but supportive, and there's nothing anybody has to worry about. They'll get whatever support they want. They just have to reach out, take that first step, do it. And it's just amazing the amount of support and information that is out there for people.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was really great to get to hear your story and to meet you and the example that you are of the kind of people that we have in the Burn the Fat Inner Circle. It's people like you that help us all have success. So thank you for being here. If you are new to Burn the Fat, Feed the Muscle, you can get Tom's book pretty much anywhere ebooks are sold, or you can go to burnthefatinnercircle.com and come and find out what all the fuss is about. We've got lots of tools to help you on your health transformation and fitness journey. Talk soon. Thanks for being here.